Are you being held hostage by your circumstances? Does it feel like you are a passive passenger rather than an active participant in your life? If that's been you, you're not alone. Most people feel like this at least at some point in their lives. I know because I've been there plenty of times. And I also know that it is one of the worst places to be. Because as humans, one of our most deeply held needs is for agency. Agency is the ability to be in charge of one's own destiny, being able to be your own person. And that means being stuck in your circumstances takes away your agency and it takes away some of the highest highs of being an actual human. This is why I'm so passionate about personal growth and creating optimal behavior change. Because there are some things in life that we can't change. Some of our circumstances are beyond our control. And this is where you can get into arguments about victimhood and blaming and things like that, and woe is me and it's not my fault. And that's all fine. Some things are outside of your control. And as you and I have talked about many times in the past, those are the things that we just don't focus on. Because if you can't control it and you can't change it, any mental energy that you spend on that thing is inherently wasted. So anything that you can't change literally, just push it to the side. There's no use thinking about it because it's going to be like that no matter what. However, the question I asked in the beginning was, are you being held hostage by your circumstances? And when I say held hostage by your circumstances, I mean, are the circumstances that you are in stopping you from living the life that you would like to live? So a classic example of this is someone who is very overweight not being able to do things physically that they would like to do otherwise. I remember a client years ago I worked with named Tan, and I'll never forget this story when he went with his entire family and extended family to Disneyland or Disney World, one of those two. And we got on a call after his vacation, catching up, and I was like, "How was your trip?" And he just goes, man, I was able to walk around Disney World the entire time. Not only that, I was keeping up with the kids and I had my daughter on my shoulders almost the entire time. He said, I was the only adult in my family who didn't have to sit down, take a break, or completely pass up on parts of the excursion because they were either too out of breath, too out of shape, they had pain in some of their joints or something like that. And that, I remember hearing that and just being like, wow, that is amazing to me. Because prior to that, prior to us working together and him getting his fitness and all that stuff in check, he would have been a victim of his circumstance, meaning he, just like the other members of his family probably would have, wanted to keep up with his kids, to run around, to be able to put his daughter on his shoulders, but he wouldn't have been able to physically. So his desires and what he was able to achieve would have been diminished by his physical capacity. Similar to wanting to be able to buy something and not having the money for it. Not that money is the end all be all of everything, but we do know that having the capacity to buy things, to be financially stable or financially solvent, it does take a layer of pressure off of you because you don't have to worry about things. So when you say, I really want to be able to have this thing, this blank, whatever it is, this kitchen gadget, this trip, this subscription service, but I can't afford it, that is, again, being held hostage by your circumstance. So all the work that you can do to take control of your circumstances, to put yourself in the best possible position to win in any circumstance, in my opinion, is the best way that we can spend our time, our energy, our effort, and yes, our money. This is why I will always endorse paying for education, going to seminars, paying for meetups or courses or anything like that. Because what it does is it puts you in a space, it puts you in a place where you can be in more control. You can't always immediately change your circumstances. There are some things that are outside of your control. But the more knowledge you have, the more capacity you have, the more physical capacity you have, it allows you to have the best possible chance when an opportunity to change comes up. So using my client Ton again as an example, when we were exercising, when he was dieting, when he was doing all the mindset work that we were working together for like 6 months prior to this trip, we never could have guessed that this was going to be the outcome. Like, yeah, I could have guessed if you told me that he was going to go to Disneyland, would he be in shape for it? Yes, obviously, but I didn't know this was coming up. He didn't really know this was coming up. He didn't think about it as a potential outcome. So all of the work that we were doing was not for this specific outcome. We weren't training for a trip to Disneyland. However, by training his physical fitness, by eating better, by working on his mindset and showing up more consistently, which allowed him to train his fitness and all of the puzzle pieces that go into that, it put him in the best possible shape physically and mentally, and it put him in the best possible position so that when a challenge was presented to him, in this case it was going to Disneyland and walking 40,000 steps a day with his kids, he was able to take advantage of that situation. And had he not been preparing, he would have fallen victim to being held hostage by his circumstances, by the extra body fat he was carrying around that made him a little bit too heavy to keep up, or by his knees that were always hurting, or by his feet that started to ache after he took X many steps. So when you feel like you are a victim of your circumstances, you are the passenger in life, you're not the driver, you're not an active decision maker, and things are just happening to you, inherently, these are where feelings of depression, anxiety, and just bad things come up. Because what you're saying when you feel like that is that I feel like I can't control my life. And that is never going to be a good feeling for a human to have. So although we can't actively force everything to go exactly like we want it to, we can put ourselves in the best situation to win so that when a challenge comes up, you can break out of those handcuffs that are holding you hostage and potentially be able to win in those moments. And this is why reading, exercising, eating healthy, getting steps, challenging yourself physically, challenging yourself mentally, working on your relationships, going to therapy, all of these cliche rote personal growth things can never be overstated and never be overdone. Because the more you do them, the more you put yourself in a position to win. The more you put yourself in a position to be in control. And the more you do that, the less you will ever have to worry about being a hostage of your circumstances. So my action step for you this week is exactly that. Put yourself in a position to win in the future. Do the thing today or this week that makes you better, not because of a specific goal, not because of a specific outcome in mind right now, but because you know that by doing this thing, by exercising, by eating better, by reading a book instead of watching Netflix, that by doing these things, you are putting yourself in the best possible chance for success down the road. And if you want to learn more about taking control of your circumstances, make sure to listen to my episode titled When Doing Too Much Gets You Nothing. I've linked to it in the show notes, and it pairs perfectly with this episode. It builds on what you've been learning, and that is change made easy.